What is up, meal prepping family? It's Bobby, and today we are gonna rock out some healthy meal prepping for weight loss that is so easy to make and crazy big on flavor. The fact that it's low calorie and low fat is just the cherry on top of this meal prepping Sunday. So let's get ready for some ramen meal prep. Quick and easy ramen soup with low carb noodles and pork and mushroom lettuce wraps. So if you have not subscribed to my channel, get on that, you guys. We are rocking out healthy, delicious, easy meal preps every Friday morning, and I would love for you to join the Flav City community. To get this ramen started, I'm preheating a soup pot over medium heat. I'm gonna drizzle in a couple teaspoons of avocado oil, and then add 1 cup of chopped onions. Next up is mushrooms, and I'm using these beautiful shirataki mushrooms. They're a lot more available these days, and they have tons of flavor. So what you have to do for these is cut off the stem and then finely slice the mushroom. And then add them to the pot. Now shiitakes are way better than button mushrooms, but if you can't find them, you could also use cremini or baby bella mushrooms, which we'll be using later on. And if you don't want to throw away the little stumps here, just save them. They make really good veggie stocks or veggie broths. All right, I want to pinch in a little bit of salt to help release a little bit of the moisture. I let the mushrooms and the onions cook for a good 8 minutes by themselves. That way they can cook down, and because the next ingredient is gonna be garlic, and garlic burns easily, and it's gonna be ginger. Fresh ginger root is so darn aromatic, it's gonna add a lot of flavor to the soup. But the way I like to break it down is first peel it and then run it back and forth on my microplaner, and it gets really nice and fine and kind of melts into the soup. So add a teaspoon of ginger and a couple cloves of garlic that are finely minced. All right, I'm gonna cook those for just a couple minutes, and then I'm gonna reach for the next essential ingredient for ramen, miso paste. Now, if you think back, you've heard me say that I'm not a huge fan of soybeans in my food. That's because excessive soybeans can cause man boobs in dudes. And I don't wanna be rocking no man's ear or bro anytime. But this fermented soybean paste has so much flavor, and the amount of flavor it adds to the soup is worth a little bit of man boobs. I'm just saying it. Plus it's organic, so it's not GMO at least. So I'm gonna add a couple tablespoons to start, and I might need some more later on. And just like I would with any dry spices, I wanna cook or bloom all the essential oils and the flavors in the miso paste for about 30 seconds. That kind of wakes up the flavor. And the next up is 2 quarts of beef stock. Now, this recipe would be 100% vegetarian and vegan if I was using vegetable stock, but I've done that before and it doesn't quite have the same flavor as beef stock. So go ahead and add that to the pot. And I don't know if you guys know, but most ramens are made with MSG. And if you're anything like Desi and I, you're highly intolerant to MSG. And some ramen broths are cooked with pork belly and chicken wings for like 24 to 48 hours. And there's so much fat that literally gets emulsified in the broth that yes, it's delicious, but it has so many calories and so much fat. So this version of my quick and easy, light and lean ramen packs a ton of flavor and barely any fat. So while I'm waiting for this to come to a boil, we have to get our sauces and seasonings that make this ramen truly Asian. Because any Asian dish is always gonna have sweet, sour, spicy, and salty. So for that, I'm gonna use soy sauce, sambal olik, which is a chili paste, and I'm gonna use some toasted sesame oil to add some nuttiness. So go in with a half a teaspoon of toasted sesame oil, half a teaspoon of sambal, and a couple teaspoons of low sodium soy sauce. Now, I much prefer coconut amino acids to soy sauce, but Trader Joe's was fresh out. All right, the pot of ramen is boiling. I'm gonna shift it to the back for about 15 minutes on a simmer. In the meantime, we can get going on the mushroom and pork lettuce wraps. All right, for the lettuce wraps, I'm preheating a large cast iron pan over medium-high heat. I'm gonna drizzle in a couple more teaspoons of avocado oil. And then once again, I'm gonna start with onions, but I'm also gonna add a bunch of chopped cremini or baby bella mushrooms. So what I talked about earlier with the ramen, if you can't find shiitake, these baby bellas are a perfect sub. These are baby portobellos. Yeah, see, baby bellas. Desi's not paying attention today. All right, so let's go in with the onions and the shrooms. All right, let's do trivia again this week. Now, shrooms are in the pan. Do I want to salt this now, in the beginning of the cooking process, or do I want to wait towards the end or maybe 8 minutes after they've been cooking? Leave the comment below and let me know why. In the meantime, I just thought about this. This is a great way to trick your family members or your kids into eating more veggies because everything's gonna cook down, then we're gonna add the ground pork. If you wanna put like zucchini in there instead of mushrooms or yellow squash or cauliflower, it's a great way because they're gonna blend into the pork later on, and little Timmy won't even know what hit him, but he just ate 2 servings of veggies, so take that, bro! After 8 minutes of cooking, look inside that pan, you guys. The mushrooms have really caramelized down, as have the onions. That creates a ton of flavor. Now for the protein, I'm using ground pork because traditionally in lettuce wraps, you use really fatty ground pork, and we could afford these calories and fat because everything else in this entire meal prep recipe is lean. So go ahead and add that to the pan and turn the heat up to medium-high. Now, if you wanted to make this even leaner than it already is, you can use lean ground beef. You can use ground chicken, ground turkey, or you can triple the amount of shrooms in here and make it vegetarian. But check out the macros down in the description box. They're pretty darn good. So use your spoon and just break up the pork the best you can. That way it cooks in little crumbles. All right, take a look inside the pan, you guys. The pork is about halfway done. You can see it's still pink in certain spots, but now's the time I want to add more garlic and more ginger. 3 cloves of minced garlic and a teaspoon of fresh ginger. And what's really cool about this recipe is that so many of the ingredients we use for the ramen, we're using in the lettuce wraps too. I love that because it just makes it so darn easy for you guys. All right, let's cook this a few more minutes and then we'll use the same exact sauces we used in the ramen to finish this guy off. Now that the pork is cooked all the way through, the answer to my trivia question earlier, salt at the end, because think about it. Mushrooms are like 90% water. If you salt them in the beginning, all that water is gonna leach out and they'll end up boiling in their own juices as opposed to caramelizing and getting nutty and earthy. So now I can pinch in just a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and then reach for the same sauces as before to finish it up. So let's put about a teaspoon of sambal oelek chili sauce, half a teaspoon of toasted sesame oil, and about a tablespoon of low sodium soy sauce. Oh, the smells coming off this pan right now are so darn good. And these are way healthier than getting at a restaurant. When you go to like P.F. Chang's, God knows what kind of sauces and MSG and corn syrup and sugars they put in there. At least when you're making it at home, it's clean and you know exactly what goes into it. All right, I'm gonna kill the heat. My favorite part, checking for seasoning. Wow, the ground pork is so fatty and luscious, and those mushrooms are nutty and earthy, but it needs more salt in the form of soy sauce and a little more lime juice. I forgot, a squeeze of lime juice at the end will add the sour. And then if you think like me, you know the only thing we're missing in this entire recipe is some crunch. So let's shake in some unsalted, lightly roasted peanuts and some freshly chopped chives. Oh, come on, the smells are awesome. How good does that pan o' pork look? That is done. All right, let's go check on our ramen, drop the noodles, and then we are done. Take a look at this broth, you guys. It looks rich and murky and full of flavor. It actually looks like my favorite ramen, which is tonkatsu, which is the one that has all the calories and fat and MSG and I can't eat. But this one is way, way easier and only took about 20 minutes. Now, for the noodles, what makes this recipe low carb and low calorie are shirataki noodles. You guys know they're my BFF when they come to noodles. And a lot of you guys ask the question about which ones I get. This brand is just the best. Soya Pasta Zero. They always have them at Whole Foods and they almost always have them at Walmart. They have no funky smell and they're absolutely perfect as a starchy, carby noodle replacement. But what you have to do is just cut the packet open, thoroughly drain it, and then wash them under cold water. And then one thing that I've learned to do with these guys is cut them. So go ahead and spill them on the board and just run a knife through them. That way they don't kind of tangle all together. Plus I get to show you my brand new shun knife, Japanese Damascus steel. How freaking sick is this guy? And then add it to the broth. I wasn't sure if I needed 1 or 2 packs, but you know what? Ramen is all about a bowl of noodles, so I do want 2. Plus, an 8-ounce pack of these noodles, you guys, only has 1 net carb. That is so redonkadonk for noodles. So go ahead and add that. Oh, and look at that. As soon as the noodles go in, it looks like a proper ramen. Now you have to check for seasoning always when you're cooking, but especially with ramen because I guarantee we're gonna need more seasoning. It's just one of those recipes, especially soups, where you have to constantly taste, adjust as you go along. Oh, the broth is rich. It's actually very well seasoned, but I do want to add a little more of the miso paste. Of course, if you love a good kick of heat, you could add more sambal or sriracha sauce, but that is it. Ramen is done. Lettuce wraps are just about done. Let's plate this up and get this in my pie hole ASAP. Fill a bowl up with some of the ramen, and then top it with some shredded carrots, some chopped chives, and some chili peppers. For the lettuce cups, use some Boston butter lettuce. Fill it up with some of the pork and mushroom filling. Garnish with a few more peanuts, some chives, and some red chilies. There it is, you guys. Ramen meal prep for weight loss, looking sexy AF. And the cool thing is, I don't know if you've ever had ramen at one of those Japanese joints. You can put whatever you want on top of there. Crunchy bean sprouts, soft ramen egg, and that yolk just runs into the broth and makes it extra rich. Anything you want. All right, less talking, let's try this ramen soup. I love it because the top is crunchy, the broth is rich, a little salty, a little earthy, and those noodles are everything. All right, let's try one of these guys. Yum, crispy raw lettuce, that fatty pork, salty soy, crunchy peanuts. If you don't want to use Boston butter lettuce, AKA bib lettuce, you can use hearts of romaine, you can use Napa cabbage, you can use green cabbage, anything that's a nice little vessel for that delicious pork and sausage filling. If you're wondering about the storage and reheating, I always put that on the recipe page. So down in the description box is the link to the recipe. Read through it and it's at the bottom. Make sure you hook me up and subscribe to my channel. Share this video if you want to share the love of delicious, healthy meal prepping with Bobby. If you want to see 2 more pretty darn tasty and healthy meal preps, check out the videos below me. But I'll see you next Friday like I always do. Until then, hashtag keep on cooking. Peace.